Hello, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our keynote speakers, expert moderators, panelists, and solutions sponsors for participating in this year's Insight Jam Live. This has been a big year with the launch of the InsightJam.com community site and the amazing growth of the Insight Jam YouTube channel, which now has over 500,000 subscribers. Much of this success is tied directly to the video events, podcasts, and panel discussions we have been producing, and none of that would be possible without the thoughtful participation of the many IT professionals who are generously sharing their expert insights for this latest jam. We are building Insight Jam to be a place to celebrate enterprise technology with best practices, expert analysis, and solution showcases. And we want all of you to join us there to keep the jam going into the new year and beyond. If you haven't joined Insight Jam, please do. And if you already have, take a moment to invite some of your colleagues. And again, thank you all for being here and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents Insight Jam, a social media community for enterprise technology. Hello and welcome back to the 6th annual Insight Jam. My name is Jonathan Paula. All week long, we're talking about strategies for AI impact, 4 days of thought leadership, and we have assembled another great panel to talk all about our next topic, redefining the client lifecycle with AI and automation. Anders, Francis, Jeremy, Judith, Carrie, and Harry have joined me from around the globe to discuss that, so let's bring them all in now. Welcome one and all. Thank you for being here, first and foremost. Appreciate your time. Let's start with some introductions. Anders, you've agreed to moderate, so let's start with you. 30 seconds or so, tell the audience a bit about yourself and maybe your professional history.
Sure. Hello, my name is Anders Green. I'm down here in North Carolina, currently doing a lot of ERP technology, cloud-based stuff. Formerly, IBM, like so many folks, and electrical engineering way back, real-time operating systems and stuff like that. So certainly deep into databases at the moment and enjoying getting into this AI. It's been a long time since I wrote neural nets back in college. A lot of those same fundamentals still apply.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. Francis, let's go over to you next.
Hi, I'm Frances Clevin. I am the Senior Director of Customer Experience at Learn Upon, so I oversee our customer success, our implementation, and our customer community. And we work with customers on their learning programs, whether that be for their customers or for their employees. But my entire background has been in learning. I started my career in higher education, working on their digital education strategies. And about 10 years ago, moved to the dark side to Silicon Valley software. And that's where I've remained. But really excited about this AI conversation. When I first joined the SaaS world, I was working for Coursera, which, if you don't know, was founded by 2 machine learning experts. So, and this was 10 years ago, and really thinking about machine learning, and that bled into AI. So excited for this conversation to share what we're thinking about at Learn Upon and also what we're hearing from our customers.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Harry, over to you next.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on today. Harry Fowler, Chief Digital and Technology Officer at Alorica. I have a very interesting background because, of course, it all seem connected. Recovering, as I always say, a recovering attorney, geneticist, intelligence officer, private equity, and smack dab in the middle of customer journeys. So clearly that all makes sense. But at Alorica, I lead the innovation arm of our practice, where we connect billions and billions of transactions around the world with everyday brands and customers that call to get support, find out more, or most importantly, interact with the brands that they trust the most. And we're bringing a digital first approach, and clearly AI is a very, very centrist part of that approach. So looking forward to talking around AI today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on. Jeremy Young, Chief Technology Officer at Blackline. So I lead our technology teams. We're in the finance transformation space, really automating work within the office of the CFO, and AI is a big part of that. So excited to be here on this panel to talk about that. I've also led technology teams at Amazon Web Services, Apptio in the cloud cost management space, and Microsoft as well. So really excited to also think about how this has transformed the industry as a whole and where the shifts are happening.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Judith.
and thank you for having me. And I'm Judith O'Callaghan, co-founder of Global ERP Advisory. We are an independent ERP advisory, bringing in the much-needed independence in the ERP space. I've been in the implementing SAP for the last 25 years of my life. So great to be here. Thank you.
Not bad. And last but not least, Carrie Brown, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Lots of intersecting worlds. So I have been in this space for 20, 30 years as well. So I worked for SAP for 18 years. I was a customer for 12 before that. My career actually has been focused a lot on change management and people. So my litmus test when I look at what we've been talking about is how do people's jobs change? I actually started the Future of Work community at SAP about 10 years ago, which wasn't just about where we work, but how AI, machine learning, and demographics all change how we work. So now I'm at Celonis, which is a process intelligence company, looking at how processes and people come together, and the visibility in process can help achieve success in all the things that everyone else just talked about. So nice to be here. Thank you.
It is nice to have you here, one and all. Again, appreciate it. I'm going to step out of the way and let Anders take things from here with the first question, and I'll catch up with all of you at the end of the show for some self-promotion. Good luck.
Thank you. All right, guys, let's get started. If we want to talk about the client lifecycle, that's very, it's a large scope. It could be anything from ERP to CRM to project management to onboarding new people. And one of the pieces that's going to impact that, of course, is the scale at which we are operating. If you have a small team of a dozen guys and you're working with another small company versus multinational corporations, that's really going to change how much information you need to process, and perhaps how AI is going to help you do those things. So why don't we start with a little bit of what we might call classical client lifecycle, as far as like getting things started, planning that route, and looking at, for a good success story with client lifecycle, where would you get started, and what were the main pieces that you're going to build on? So we can run around in the same circle. Francis, why don't you start with some of that?
Yeah, this is interesting because we're a learning product, so we're working with our customers on rolling out their learning programs. And so very similar of what we would talk to our customers about, and simple, but it's still the thing that we're trying to do is how do you get the right interventions or information to the right people at the right time? So thinking about, all those things that you mentioned about the customer life cycle. So implementation and adoption and growth, and thinking about those life cycles, but then thinking about how do we get those right interventions and right information to the right people at the right time. And as you mentioned, the scaling piece, that's the challenge, right? That's the challenge with or without technology, that how do you take the information that you have and the people that you have and make sure that you're able to scale that, but also make that as precise as possible. And so I think that's the struggle for anyone working in a customer life cycle of how do you make this scale and how do you make this as surgical and precise as possible.
Excellent. Harry, are you going to sneak in any attorney speak in here? Or you've got a slightly different perspective than the rest of us on customer journey, because there's certainly going to be a lot of risk associated with potentially bringing AI for some particular clients. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I said recovering attorney because hopefully I continue to stay in recovery from that. But great education. But you bring up a great point. It's something that that I talk about a lot with our clients and our customers is what risks are involved when you start looking at AI and automation. We started, I think a lot of us on this call can remember when RPA was the hottest thing, right? So RPA was very heavy in resources, heavy in IT. IT had to own it, and if someone else tried to own it, IT grabbed it. But the risk was controlled. So if you think about how you add AI into this client lifecycle, or I call it the client journey, is you have new risks that you need to address. And one of the things that we talk about often is setting up a AI council. Some clients call it machine learning council, AI council, where we have to deal with the new ethics and compliance manners that are coming in place. So you have, depending on the administration, the U.S. is going to have an interesting spot here with the newly elected administration on which way they go. But if you look at countries like India, India is a very interesting place to go take a client lifecycle right now because they're in the experimentation mode where, you know what, let's just be careful, but lack of let's say lower lower regulations, and let's see where it goes. Where if you look at the UK with especially the EU, a higher bar. So really a heavy emphasis on an AI ethics and governance council is something that probably will weave into the conversation here over the next 20 or 30 minutes, to the point you might make my box like fly off the screen.
Excellent. Carrie, what would you like to add as far as some of the scale and pieces that fit in there?
I think for us, the scale becomes really interesting because all of our customers are across the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 businesses, and the scale and reach of all of them is billions and billions of records. So really, if you look at understanding your processes, allows you to expedite your customer life cycles, whether that be for PepsiCo or GE or a state and federal government. So you're really looking at how to understand what you're doing in a way that you can expedite what is happening to either help that patient faster or get an item to a product, to a producer faster. So in all of those cases, for us, what we're looking at to the conversation of AI is we often say there's no AI without PI, there's no AI without process intelligence, because if you know what boundaries you're living within, then you can really expedite those processes as smartly as possible from end to end to meet whatever that customer's needs are along the way.
Excellent. And Judith, you are down under, so a perspective from literally the other side of the planet. And certainly that's going to be a different regulatory environment and many different changes. What are you seeing down there as far as what's coming in?
Absolutely. And this is a great thing to start, right? So the best thing that AI has done is bring the importance of human intelligence to the surface. So especially at the initial stages, it helps us as humans to define where we need to be and where we need to make a difference. And then what is AI without process intelligence or any of the automations and everything else? So it helps us define where we need to be, where we can add maximum value and use the tools that we have to make the world better, because end of the day, we all want things faster, cheaper, and better. So that's a great place to start.
Faster and cheaper and better, that's all we want. So it's not a big ask. Jeremy, you've been involved with some projects at a massive scale with some of your former organizations. And so I imagine that some of the client journeys that you've been on, whether internal or external, have had to take on some petabyte scale problems. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think it comes down to really having that shared vision and mission for what you want to achieve. And I think that's been the fundamental grounding principle. And I think with a lot of the opportunities, whether it's not really about the scale, but it's, do you have a shared goal in mind? And that's how we enable our customers, right? Whether it's AI to help drive that. We have customers who are potentially risk adverse to adopting new technologies, whether it's AI or others. And so it's about having trust, having a shared vision, and then the scale can come as part of that, really implementing those solutions in a way that scales, meets customer needs, and has the ability to really drive that value for them. And whether it's AI powered or through other solutions, that's ultimately making sure that they have their goals met and that shared vision.
So we've done our first take here, and what I would like to consider next, and I'll throw this out to the group. Whoever is quickest on the buzzer can jump in first. But if we're looking at the process, the customer journey, you're working with a client, and at what point do you put forward the idea that, hey, maybe we should bring AI into this? And are there issues that you specifically know this is going to trigger us looking at that kind of technology? Or in the client journey, has there been a particular inflection point where the customer says, come on guys, can we do this with AI? I don't want to put 40 people on processing this paperwork. What have you seen as an inflection point where AI suddenly jumps into this journey? Well, who wants to take it?
I'll take a stab at it if you want. So I think probably the rest of us, AI can do everything. Just easy. You just ask a client. Oh, well, I mean, AI can do it all, right? Sure, AI can do it all. So I think the thing to decipher is what AI should be doing and then what it can do well. You remember 2 years ago, it was just an experiment that has literally escaped the lab when a certain company said, hey, universe of commercial consumers, want to try this? It can do your homework for you. I know that my daughter can't do some of her homework now without the assistance of ChatGPT, which is scary and at the same time. But one of the things that we always like to focus on is what does the client journey look like, right? And along that journey, we have moments that matter. I think that a lot of people, going back into Deloitte and Accenture terminologies here that have really taught us well. And then those moments that matter, what's important? Is it a human connection? And can AI come in and actually take some of the mundaneness of whatever is happening out so that the client can actually focus on the moment that matters and let AI help? Or is it important to look at what AI shouldn't be doing here because either there's too much risk or maybe it's dealing with payment or health information that AI probably shouldn't be touching yet until you have a good framework. So I think understanding what AI should be doing and not be doing and doing it well to allow and amplify, at least in my world, amplify the human connection so that tech can come in and help really take away the mundaneness of an interaction so that I can focus on that humanistic or what I call emotional IQ part of that conversation.
That makes a lot of sense. Carrie, I see you nodding your head there. Do you have some particular moments that are popping up in your memory?
I do. And the thing that comes to mind also is if I look at the challenge, Harry's right. AI can do everything. And when you think about where to put AI, it's almost like a kid in a candy store, which piece of candy to have first. I would say to your question earlier of what's the push or the pull around AI, for our customers, they're looking at where can I do the most impact, the quickest, the fastest. So to Judith's point of, faster, better, but how do you prioritize all those choices? Because you can't do everything all at once. So what we find is the ability to stack rank and look across their entire enterprise allows you to do a really good review and identify the process orchestration. So prioritizing both on value and on speed and on opportunity, but also to the conversations on people is intersecting that with your people strategy. So understanding where you might have turnover issues, where you might have other alternatives, where automating or leveraging other technologies can really support the business execution, not only to get the outcomes you want, but to support the organization and the customer simultaneously. Some examples we see are the things we've talked about here of, where I mentioned earlier, Pepsi, they're trying to get to market with, how do I get my product there faster? So when they were rolling out an ERP system, we've all talked about ERP. When they first rolled it out, their processes weren't working and 30% of their orders were being rejected. Well, that's not helpful. So looking at how to bring in automation in places like that becomes really obvious. But I would say when you're looking more broadly at the marketplace, it's how to pick and choose. It becomes really helpful to stack rank that and see the value potential.
Does maybe Jeremy, Francis, or Judith, can you picture a moment where there was a request for AI where you were like, that's a terrible idea? Maybe you didn't bring it up that way to the client, but they were thinking that surely AI could do this, and you were like, this is the wrong time. Do you any anti-examples you can think of?
Absolutely. I can go first if you're okay. So
sure.
One of the clients that we are working with now, they wanted to use AI to write their business case for their transformation. And this was way out of the box. And also AI is not that mature to be able to do that. And the important thing that happened out of it was the advent that at the moment where the client actually realized the importance of human intelligence and also understand where AI can play better. Like concepts like fail fast and fail forward are very, very easily implemented with the tools that we now have in AI. So, and also process intelligence, much easier to map processes with AI. So don't waste human resources on that. So work on where you can add value as a human and leave the rest to the technology to be able to do a better job. Yeah.
Super. Jeremy, did you have something that you wanted to throw in there?
I mean, maybe as a counterpoint to that, I almost wonder if that's part of the time when people ask for the impossible with AI, it's not a matter of if, it's when. I think Harry brought this up before, right? It's not about whether it's something that you should do now, it's when do you think the technology and the tools will be ready. And so that's where I think the approach that we've taken is really to pave the path, right? To give people trust, to allow them to use AI in subtle ways first to see the potential. And then they ask better questions about where they can leverage AI. I think that really helps them understand, let's give them a taste of where AI is really effective, right? Bake this to our products, bake this into their journey of adopting these products. And then as they begin to see the potential, they ask better questions about where they can use AI. And so I think right now there's so much hype that it's a wide gamut of what's possible. And so if you help focus customers through what's tangible, through where it's effective, and you can guide them through that, it gets them to be in a more effective place sooner.
True. And speaking of AI and homework, Francis, you've been involved in some very large schools, but that also means that you have, since it's non-governmental, a whole different set of like ethics and processes and people that you are dealing with. Have there been maybe requests for AI in that process that had to be modified specifically because it was, a higher education venue?
Not so much there. It's been interesting in the AI conversations of, people think of this as something so technical. And in the conversations that I've had across the board of, you find people wanting AI to do the things that they're not very interested in. And then they don't want AI to touch the things that are really important to them. So for the people that I work with, I always am trying to push them to looking at their analytics, looking at their learning analytics and thinking about that and putting presentations together around that and insights and business impact and business results. And they want to stay away from that. They're learning professionals, they're instructional designers, they're people who care a lot about content. So when you try to talk to them about actually AI could be really impactful to your content. And one of the risks that I see is that your content isn't very effective. And it's because for lots of reasons, you're not able to scale it. It's out of date. It's not high quality. They want to stay away from that. So I've found, and even the people who work on my team who work with our customers, there's emotional conversations around it and where they want AI to be involved in, and in a very, human way. Just do all the stuff I don't want to do, but don't do the things that I'm really proud of. And I would be worried if you could do it better than I could. But there is a correlation there from when I was working in higher ed, where we were asking professors to move to more flipped classrooms, right? Take your standard lectures, put those on demand, and then have interactions in the classrooms. And there was a real reckoning that some professors were able to do and some were not, of, the way that I'm teaching right now is largely not very effective. To lecture in front of students for 2 hours with a script is largely ineffective, and I'm going to have to make a change there. So I think that's the pattern that I've seen of having those conversations and really understanding where people are afraid or protective and where they might be steering AI to be just, hey, can you take care of the thing that I'm less comfortable with and leave me in my comfortable bubble?
Right. Everyone has like their favorite piece of putting the paper together. I want to do the title page, or
Yes.
I want to do the drawings, and they don't want that to go away because that's part of their core enjoyment.
Or part of their job, like a real what would it mean if I didn't do the drawings? Would my entire professional purpose be defunct? I think there's real things to wrestle with there too, but it's been fun conversations to have, to say, imagine a world that you were doing another thing much better or more effective.
Right. Yeah, and if we look at the whole the client process, the whole life cycle of it, have we seen, do we think that the group can say that there's a particular area that is always a minefield, where someone says, ooh, anytime we get near this with AI or talking about it, this becomes a problem for the client? Where do we have to be extra careful bringing in this topic?
Sensitive data is one that comes up a lot, like financials, especially like when you report out financials, especially for public companies, they need to be accurate. So ensuring that there's trust around the outputs of AI, that's critical. And that's why the approach we've taken is always put users in the driver's seat, give them the chance to validate the outputs, give them the chance to understand how it works. And I think that's really been effective, but that's definitely where a lot of cautions come up. It's anything that requires the utmost in terms of accuracy.
And that's it. Oh, go ahead.
I was like, you're really invoking my risk set here. It is around, there's already a court case in Canada that actually there is a chatbot that it was powered by an AI assistant that granted an airline ticket pricing information. And the pricing information was incorrect. So the airline said, oh, sorry, customer, we're going to have to go back and charge you more because we were wrong. Well, go through the court system, and Canada now has a precedent saying, hey, if your AI told the customer that was your price, it was a representative of your company, that's the price. You can't go back and change it. So that inserted a huge amount of risk in someone's, top line of, hey, if I have a autonomous entity giving a price and it's wrong, I have to honor that price. And it could, Jeremy's tool could really have your closing be really quick, but at the same time, you'd see really red real quick. So you have to be really careful around what do you want it to be part of? Because if it gets pricing wrong for a company that has pricing like an airline every day, it could be disastrous.
It could be. And another tricky part within that is even what do we consider, sensitive financial information? Because, if we looked at something like the price of an airline ticket, that's obviously public, at least to a person at some point. We might not know how much the money the airline is making. Similarly, for any particular given product, you might not know the costs behind it. You might want to have your AI know what the price to show is, but obviously keep the cost out. Does anyone have some thing they want to throw up about how do you silo that data? How do you carefully manage keeping pieces? We're going to let our AI see this, but it has to know this, but not tell anyone. Has anyone done some projects like that?
Not uniquely about that, but what I would say, what we're seeing is certainly, to Jeremy's point, identifying the rules and the regulations and the policies around AI is where every customer we have is really focused on making sure that anyone in their organization doesn't take the data set for their particular space and then play with it in ChatGPT. So, having the right boundaries around it. Certainly what we are definitely seeing is, so that there's smart information and you're reducing the hallucinations, is using the data set from within your organization. So the boundaries of data that can get pulled in to generate an answer aren't fictitious. So not so much that there's a matter of finding the queries that you're asking for there, but making sure that the source information fits and provides answers that everyone can act upon and trust.
Good.
Yeah, just seconding that, especially on the customer experience side of things, of really using your own data set to create your prompts and your intelligence. I think that's a really key piece, and just you'll see the people in your organization start to trust that, and they'll start to see things that are familiar to them. But I think that's really important.
How common do you guys think is the concept of the equivalent of a private cloud? People wanting their own training sets. Has that level of understanding reached clients that you're dealing with, that is a possibility to move into?
I would say yes, absolutely. For us, what we're seeing is not only the privacy, but the level of granularity, so that as you think of how to dig deeper and deeper and solve, the scale to which the work can happen. I'll bring together an example I was thinking of earlier when others were speaking, is we have right now in large ERP transformations, we have a lot of partners who are working with our customers to leverage process intelligence in that context. As you were talking earlier here about partners, when you think about, and the earlier comment of Francis about homework, basically consultants are doing homework for customers, and they want to make sure they're bringing their smart brains and balancing what they can charge or not charge on scope to that client. So we have a client right now who's using AI, where the partner is using AI to look across data for their entire organization to provide a heat map on custom code that they're going to retire and priority around that allows them to do a scale of work that they could never do or charge for because the client wouldn't be able to afford it. And yet now they're applying that smart advisory skill that costs time and money, where that smart human is coming in to do the right work at the right time. So, to me, I see definitely a need to and a desire to use your own information where they're getting to really not only look at their organization, but slicing and dicing it by geography or plant or area or process at a really granular level that gives you the specificity to really make tight decisions, which are worth a lot of money.
And a lot of it does come down to that when we think about what is this going to cost. And we've recently seen OpenAI bring out their next level of cost at $200 a month. I can only assume that there's going to be larger models available at higher prices for custom projects. At what level in the customer journey are you guys seeing that someone actually says, okay, but how much is this AI going to cost us? And that's, not just the raw processing, but the training time, the cleaning the data, the inputting, the building of the models, all that stuff. Where are they actually saying, what is the ROI here? And say, look, forget about the magic. What are we finding for, that part of the implementation?
I mean, I think people are always asking about the ROI upfront, right? I think that's every buyer is price sensitive nowadays. And so I think that's why I talked in the beginning about value, mission, vision, and shared outcomes, right? People want to anchor on what are the outcomes. And then you work backwards from, okay, if these are your outcomes, here's where the AI solutions we have could be more effective, could be more efficient than what you're doing today. And so I think if you can anchor on those outcomes, then people are more open to have that conversation around value and value being delivered, and then the pricing commensurate with that.
I'll just piggyback on that. Like we are value. That's sort of built in. And in fact, I would say so much of what we're doing, like our model is find, frame, fix. So you find what the problem is, you frame out exactly the value as Jeremy's talking about, and then pick what to fix. So certainly we see in the the embarrassment of riches in terms of opportunities for companies, having the value tag and the price tag makes the investment or the prioritization much simpler.
Carrie said it earlier, I think, and maybe even Francis, where it's as part of this transformation journey, there's a bunch of different areas you have to look at. It's not just around the ROI, but you have a cultural debt, you have a skills debt, you have a lot of different debts inside an organization you have to take into account in that ROI factor, or else you're going to get a really bad surprise at the end of, hey, we were able to negotiate maybe some really cool technology, able to garner the processes. Our board doesn't understand it. We have a skills gap. Our culture isn't ready to accept it. It's a multi-dimensional transformation when you talk about a cost and an ROI that you really need to bring into the equation. So definitely a multi-dimensional look from skills, excuse me, from your skills and your culture, but most importantly, your leadership gap. I find that even in today's engagements, I think all of us might be able to attest to, you have executives that aren't using AI or afraid to use AI, even simple chat GBT, and that filters down the organization. So the dichotomy is talking about, we know we need to do it. Our clients in their life cycle are demanding us to be more efficient, be better, faster, cheaper, I think, as we said. But if you have executives and leaders that don't even understand and use it, that skills gap and leadership and cultural gap is going to play a very large part in not attaining that ROI in a faster time period.
Yeah. Just piggybacking on Harry.
No, go ahead.
Just piggybacking on Harry. So one of the important aspects that we as leaders need to remind ourselves is the organization readiness for all these aspects. As you say, ROI is dependent on so many things, and leadership readiness, organization healing, and the debt that they carry, and transformation readiness. All these influence how we use technology, what do we get out of it? So it's not an aspect that we can hide from. So it's a matter of how we help the organizations move forward and get their strategy and vision and overall picture aligned.
Yeah. Francis, you had something too.
Yeah, I think for a software company, right, we're always thinking about new features and new things to add to subscriptions. And so, integrations and features. And, I think there's a parallel there from 3 years ago. It, wasn't table stakes for for software subscriptions to include integrations, but I think that's become more and more ingrained in for procurement teams and, anyone purchasing software in an organization of, nope, we must have an integration. We must have single sign-on. That wasn't the case a couple of years ago. So I think AI will get there, but there's so much I see where AI is successful in being monetized when it's solving an existing problem. So I think about translation, like that's a huge thing that I see from customers of anything where AI can help with translations, because that's already an existing problem. But I think a lot of the things, and I definitely resonate with the idea that you have executives who aren't engaged with the tool and thinking about it. So when you're talking about paying for AI tools that are solving problems that aren't really top of mind, or people aren't really thinking are the core of a business problem, or aren't, an existing task, I think that's difficult, and that's a challenge for us of how do we talk to leaders about what things will look like 5 years from now, and how AI tools are going to help them be out in front of that. But that's a challenge when you have people who are not using those tools and maybe not seeing what the opportunities are there.
One of the things I want to go back to what Judith said around people. I'm a change management person at heart, and what I find also is it's interesting in the discussions I'm having with organizations now on how to leverage the information, not only on the IT side of things. So, we all talked about ERP work where there's major transformation, and building the systems is hard. I used to do change management, and you'd go live and you'd sort of cross your fingers, and a month later go look at Post-it notes and see what people really did right or wrong. Now you can, like if I look now at the discussions I have of using a digital twin of your system, which historically has been used to do incremental changes to improve processes, you can use that to say, okay, if this is what my new system is going to look like and what we do now, I can identify change impacts and training needs analysis, and I can support users. And to your question of what's the price around AI, the scalability to say, I can tap a user on the shoulder and say, you made a mistake, I can send you back to the right training. The way to support people, like we could have a whole discussion on demographics and people and all of who is using AI or not. But we've also got a huge churn in the workforce. So AI can really help those workers. I had a conversation earlier today with the CIO on how AI can help people do their jobs better and right, who are only in a job for a limited period of time. And so, we've really got a lot of gifts to bring to people in addition to the replacement that AI might present, but really the help to drive that forward as well.
Yeah, I think that having essentially a backup training that is running with you live as a new user is a fantastic use of AI. That kind of jumps into a thing that we had just previously, which is things that are not available yet. We had it's not if, but when. So if we say, what are the AI tools that might be coming that we want to keep an eye out on, or maybe that like we wish we had last week, what are the pieces where you're like, wow, I can't wait till this hits because I have 5 companies that need this right now, and I can't give it to them because it's not here yet. I mean, it's not too hard to say, we can scan an invoice and process a PO, get that into your ERP. That's pretty available. What do you think is maybe a year out as far as this will be ready in a bit? I mean, could it be requirements generation, completeness analysis? What do you guys think might be a tool that you're hoping for in this journey that goes on with AI?
I could go first if you like. So this is about 3 months away, and I'm working with a client on that. This says you can do a transformation in a lab environment and quantify your risks in a span of 3 to 12 weeks. So what it means to the client is you don't have to put your massive SAP transformation at risk. You can do it in confined lab environments where you're limited with, you can understand your risks and go take an informed position with your real life transformation. So this is like a digital twin to actually activate your transformation and be informed. So such things are very, very useful for the organizations because you can minimize downtime or even eliminate it. And also when you're changing technology from, let's face it, most ERPs are 20 years old and implemented 20 years old, and moving on to a completely different technology, which is important for its day and age, it brings a whole bunch of different aspects to the table. So this is what the world actually needs and wants right now.
If the ERP isn't old enough to drink, then we don't need to be involved.
I'll answer a thought on that. I'll piggyback on Judith. Certainly, we're seeing the visibility of how to expedite transformations for sure. But I'll give you point out improving AP, improving AR, all of those core processes. I think what's exciting is things like we have GE Healthcare looking at how the specificity of data will allow them to scan a human heartbeat, at a single heartbeat level, the kind of information you can consume that would allow clinicians to identify abnormalities in a fetus at an earlier rate pace. Like the volume and scale of data that we can consume can really give different answers versus the aggregated kind of information they've had in the past. So, while we're seeing a lot of core improvements, some of those really innovative spaces are where that data consumption can really drive more exciting outcomes.
I'll tell you, in my industry, and I think a lot of ours, reactiveness is really the key differentiator. Is everything's always reactive. If something breaks, I'm calling. I need help, so I'm calling. It's proactiveness. So looking at the ability to ingest the Internet of Things, right? IoTs, there's sensors built into so many things, especially if you look at CPG or consumer product goods. If my wife's hair dryer, because that's a real thing, because she tells me all the time, if the house is on fire, kids, me, and hair dryer, 3 things that she's going to save. So if my wife's hair dryer is going to break, instead of it breaking and her freaking out, if a part was going bad and actually a sensor was able to talk and say, hey, open up a ticket, let customer service for X brand know that it's about to die, they're proactively emailing me saying, hey, we have a hair dryer en route on the way to you. It's new to CPG. In the enterprise side, that stuff happens all the time with servers and SANs and hard drives, but that's never been the case because the amount of product out there and the amount of intelligence and data that would stem from that is unable to be handled by humans. Well, now you insert AI, we now know that we can process it quickly. There's revenue streams and all things that come from that. And number 2, we now have the ability to handle the responsiveness, whether email or text or whatever the case may be. You're a better, more active, engaged consumer, but then you're building brand reputation because now you're caring for your customer and your product before they even know it's broken. And there's so many things that go around that, but that would not be able to be happen without AI because the ingestion of all the data globally from a product is unable to be touched by humans. Well, now we have GPUs, we have all kinds of fun things to handle that. So I think that's a great use case about what's coming really quickly and what the abilities are.
I think we need a second. We need a second AI to make sure that you don't end up with 48 hair dryers, one arriving every 4 hours for the next week until it's fixed.
Good ERP CRM systems will do that.
Well, what do we think as far as the customer journey? Let's for a moment consider if you have a mature relationship. So you have a client that you've been working with, pick a number, 5, 8, 10 years, where things are going smoothly. You are able to deliver on the needs that you have. And what are the areas where you might say to expand this even more? Like the ERP is working, the CRM is working. We think that this is the area that you could do better business in by bringing in some AI. I mean, the easy one would be something like customized content for newsletters, but really you don't want to be just like pitching a better mail merge. What do you think the tool is where you can say for a mature relationship, bring in some AI to that process? Where do you think that fits?
I'll add in 15 seconds and let the other esteemed panelists here. The interconnection of the architecture, CRM, ERP, all the different systems you have are usually siloed and they might be working great, you might be using automation and have them humming, but they don't talk to each other. So utilizing a collective area of intelligence or signals intelligence to gather information from all these different systems to now inform your product team. How can you actually innovate your product faster and better and quicker, utilizing your own internal intelligence?
And excellent. I think that sort of a customer said this to me early last year, and I've sort of used it as a mantra for anyone working in customer-facing teams. Of the goal is to get to the big table, right? So many times in customer facing teams, and whether that's my own organization or customers that I work with, that the customer facing teams are sort of enacting strategy that was in place for 6 months, and they're just asked to go deliver it. I think there's such a cool and needed opportunity for AI to be able to take information from customer education and from the customer journey and have that driving business strategy, and not waiting to look at Salesforce retention reports, but using data that comes from recorded gong calls and other things, and using that to make quick and impactful business decisions, and not being sort of at the tail end of that when those decisions have already been made. I think that's really exciting from anyone from a customer success manager to a VP to be able to provide that intel. And the human piece of that is to be able to consolidate that intel and give the human perspective on that. That's really what we're trained to do and what we can do. So I'm really excited about that and hope that that's an elevation of the profession.
Yeah, I was going to add, like, data is really about being the heartbeat of the organization now. It's everywhere, right? And the scale of data and the quantity of data is just overwhelming for humans to process. And I think you hear the word agentic used a lot now, right? It's in everyone's marketing. But what really is exciting about that is, how is AI going to help drive decision making around the data that we have at our fingertips? How does it take the masses of data that humans can't really keep up with and help you understand what are the exceptions that you need to look at, what are the risks you need to look at, what are the things that humans need to handle, but take care of some of the undifferentiated work for you. And that's really exciting to me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jeremy. Well, we are getting close to wrapping things up, so we're going to do a little run around again. We'll go in reverse order this time to keep things fair. So the piece to finish up with is, if we look at the client lifecycle, what is your takeaway on where AI should fit? Where should people say, this is what I want to try to accomplish with AI, from both, perhaps the end user perspective, where should they be looking at it, and from the consultant perspective, where should they be offering it? So, Jeremy, we'll start with you and go around the circle.
Yeah. I mean, I
think it
I think it comes down to accelerating value, right? Like, whether it's saving time, greater efficiency, the hours in the day that you get back. I think that's where AI delivers the most value. And if you focus on the value and the outcomes that you're going to deliver for your customers or your clients, whether it's through partners or directly, I think that's where AI becomes so impactful in the conversation.
Excellent. Okay, Judith, we're up to you.
In my opinion, it's an opportunity for us to think long and act short. So think as long as possible to understand the value chains, or what makes sense to you to implement, to see where AI can make a difference, and where you want human intelligence to make a difference to you and to your organization. So this is a great opportunity. So no one right answer. So it's a matter of taking the time to think to be able to act.
Very good. Carrie, you're up.
Sure. I'll piggyback on the story Harry was sharing of, if I look at that view, that lens across all processes, and being able to see the intersect points, which we can do now with object-centric process mining, is I'll take a story of the control tower that you want to end up with to change the customer lifecycle in an airline. So if you imagine we've all flown and the flight is late and the luggage is gone and all of the things that can go sideways at that point in time, taking the information that is the functional information of the movement of the planes and the operations and the movement of the bags, along with the experience of the flyer and what's happening to them, and that customer care along with that operational care, intersecting all of that data is the kind of control tower visibility that can change the customer lifecycle with all the data that you have, which previously intersecting those points and being able to support would not have been possible. So to me, I think really not only the internal processes, but the internal and external processes change the internal and external customer life cycles all at the same time.
Excellent. Harry, final thoughts on AI and the customer journey.
You bet. It's a lot to unpack. I'd say surround yourself with talent, because we are in a talent war. How people can think with AI. You have the life cycle of the customer, the life cycle of the client has to be paired up with the life cycle of AI. Remember, we're iterating at such a fast pace. We went from 3 billion parameter models to 83 billion parameter models within less than a year, with the advent of quantum computing and photon quantum computing, so on and so forth. In a year or two, we're going to be 18 times more expletive with AI. We have to be able to think ahead of where we are today and pair up the maturity and the journey of your client and customer journey with the journey of where AI is today, and how to think and future-proof the integration of it, because it's not a product. AI is going to be integrated into every software and service that we are going to interact with. It's not going to be standalone. Surround yourself with talent that can think with AI.
Perfect. Francis.
Yeah, I think speak the language that your business or your clients' businesses understand. And so I'll steal from Jeremy the accelerating value, right? That's something that any business understands, that any executive team understands. And I'm also at the end of the year, so this is top of mind as I'm thinking about risk. So accelerating value and identifying risk, and AI is a huge tool for that. And so if you can leverage that to achieve those two things that businesses already think constantly about, I think there'll be a huge impact there, and it'll start to be embedded in those things that, yes, will be just it's something embedded in the norm 3 years from now.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, it's been a whirlwind of discussion here. Pretty fantastic. It's clear that what we see is that within the client lifecycle, there's a wide range of sophistication available, both on the client side and on the consultant side. Getting those to match and setting a lot of correct expectations is critical, because there is still a pretty wide gap between what is in people's imagination. AI is going to do everything for me, and I can just sit on the couch sipping pina coladas, and what is actually available to sell. So I think it's been a fantastic hour. Thank you here. I think we're going to have our producer jump back in for a second, and then there's Jonathan, and then we'll be able to run around and do, I think, our final promotions. Hey, Jonathan.
That's absolutely right. Thank you for taking the words out of my mouth, Anders, and great job moderating. Thank you, one and all, for the discussion. It's been fascinating listening in on it for the last hour here. But yeah, let's go in counterclockwise order, 30 seconds or less. I'll let the audience know what you want to promote. If it's a book, a podcast, your LinkedIn profile, it's certainly your company solution. Carrie, we'll start with you.
Well, Salonis, we talked about value and we talked about processes, and it's where we live. So in this conversation, there's no AI without PI. So use process intelligence to do your AI smarter.
Appreciate that. Nice and short. Judith, where would you like to send the audience?
Thank you. Follow me on LinkedIn and Global ERP Advisory. I also write on Ancient Wisdom, so see you there.
Sounds good. Thank you. Jeremy.
Yeah, well, if you're interested in financial transformation and those successful outcomes and delivering value through AI, stop by blackline.com and check out our solutions.
You guys are keeping this nice and short. I gave us like 8 minutes to do this, and we're going to be done in 2. Harry, how about you?
I mean, I used to get paid to talk by the minute, so I can go as long as you want. So, Alorica, if you're interested in increasing your customers' experience within your company and really putting a digital thought first mentality, come check us out. Over 150,000 employees in 17 countries, and we take our clients' brand, treat it as the most important thing, and wrap around an incredible and unique experience in each and every transaction. Really putting AI at the forefront. How can we help protect your brand, but most importantly, portray the value 24/7, 365 on a global basis?
Awesome. Well said. Francis.
Yeah, we at LearnPon have been doing a lot of work over the last 6 months to consolidate some thought leadership from our own customers, especially around automation. And so that will also include AI. So whether that's from employee onboarding to customer education at scale, we have some great ebooks there that aren't just a LearnUpon perspective, but a perspective across our customer base from all sorts of industries. So that's some great thought leadership there to hear from people who are also thinking about this deeply and doing interesting things. So learnupon.com.
Thank you very much. And Anders, last but not least.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Anders Green, the easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. And I am with Alox, which is a full cloud ERP that is targeted for distribution. So if you're a smaller industrial distributor, that is exactly our jam. Thanks so much for Insight Jam for having us here.
I was going to say, speaking of Jam, thank you again, everyone, for your time. And thank you for your attention. If you watched any portion of this live, or rather, if you missed any portion of this live broadcast, you can watch all of it right now over at insightjam.com. We streamed live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. All the replays from all of our programming this week is available there today and into the future. So if you missed any part of it, please check that out. It is a always-on destination for all your technology needs and research. And we, of course, want to suggest everybody and encourage everybody to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now over 555,000 subscribers as of today, which is very exciting. We will be back tomorrow morning with day 3 of Insight Jam Live as we kick off our cybersecurity coverage with a keynote from Prasanth Thuthakal on securing our digital future. You don't want to miss that. That starts at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But for now, for this group, thank you very much for watching and have a great night. For video highlights, replays, and more, visit insightjam.com.